Hi, everyone. Okay. And it's very late, but happy Saturday, right? Or it's Sunday now. It's Sunday. So, okay, make sure everything's going. Looks like I'm on. You can see me. So, 1,000. Well, let's see. Did I post it? I don't think I posted it even. Um, but it's 1,764 days. And since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room and his life was taken from him because he was a whistleblower, because he was a MAGA whistleblower, because his whistleblowing exposed the criminal trafficking and contracts. The contracts. Let's just say it didn't expose the contracts, but it risked the contracts because the contracts are tied with the criminal trafficking, right? Um, Absolutely, and I've explained that many times how they're connected because with the criminal trafficking, you can compromise the whole area. You can compromise the barracks. You can compromise the soldiers. And of course, with the VA and the disability benefits, you can compromise, like senior NCOs. You can compromise, they don't have to be senior NCOs. You can compromise soldiers with, you know, if you have access to the IDES pay below, the disability benefits, and all of that, then, you can compromise people. You can compromise them by making them criminals. And that's why they were bringing these young girls into the barracks. One girl, 14 years old, was living in there for 4 months being prostituted out. Am I allowed to use that word? Being pimped out, being used and abused in the worst kind of ways. And they film it all. They film all this stuff. So, and why would they film it? Um, they even distribute it for money. They make money off of it, and then they also use it to blackmail people. So, and we know that with the whole Jeffrey Epstein situation, right? With the whole all these things are coming out with the P Diddy, you know. They use it to compromise. I mean, this is not something I'm pulling out of the thin air. This is what is being revealed all over is and they're compromising our soldiers, our service members, and this so that makes it a national security threat. If you're compromising actors and you can ruin their lives and um, to continue the criminal trafficking, uh, uh, that's absolutely terrible. But there is, if you're compromising um, government officials, if you're compromising our service members, that's absolutely, uh, you know, then you're working for foreign and domestic um, enemies, right? And that's exactly what was happening with the cartel. And the cartel is, of course, connected to the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. And absolutely, this is a national security threat. So, it's been a very busy week. Lots of letters, uh, a lots of communication because things are different now. There's a new sheriff in town. I probably should put up that that picture of President Trump as the new sheriff in town. Maybe make a song because I did. Justice is in the air. I should play that again because it really that's what's happening right now. Um, just so much is going on. And I can't even imagine what it's like for the criminal side of this. Like, I don't know what Bob Moore is doing. Life must be very, very hard for Angela Kachurga and Bob Moore, rightfully so. Do not feel sorry for them. Do not feel sorry for them because their whole lot in life is to make everyone else's life miserable. They don't want to make the world a better place. They don't want to help children. They don't want to help the Hispanics like Angela Kachurga says, or even Veronica Escobar. That's all a pretense that they're pretending. It's a pretense. They give the impression of a goodness, but they are completely the opposite. They are absolutely, completely the opposite of that. And so, and because of all of their evil deeds, what they've done, um, I can't even imagine what their life must be like right now. It must be very, very horrible. Very, very horrible. And why am I saying that? Because don't be like them. Because life gets very, very horrible when you turn to criminality like they have, to organized crime like they had, and participated and facilitated organized crime like Leilani Hart with a big, long criminal record, and Nidal Baem. I mean, life must be very, very hard for Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, rightfully so. And why am I saying? And not because I feel sorry for them. I don't feel sorry for them at all. Richard, look, they took his life. This organized criminal cabal took his life. A beautiful young man. I don't feel sorry for them. Why am I bringing up that their life must be miserable? Uh, as a warning to everybody that they hold carrots up. They're always trying to recruit. They're trying to recruit. Oh, goodness, it's late. They're trying to get you on their side. They're trying to absolutely groom you, recruit you. They are absolutely trying to do that. And they'll go make life miserable so that you are very vulnerable to that. And that is what how you see the difference between what they've done under whoever was in control of the auto pen, right? Whoever was in control of the auto pen. We know that Veronica Escobar was in control of the purse. And they were absolutely, with all that money, can you imagine? $1.2 billion, all that money, and it probably was some more, because they fudge everything, right? You would think that they would do some good. No, they paid for twerking. No, they paid Oprah. That's what they do. Um, and you see, they're just up to no good. They're not into making the world a better place. The hundreds of thousands of children, the death camp, the emergency intake camp there on Fort Bliss went turbo force in 2021 when the auto pen, whoever is behind the auto pen, uh, you know, had control and would not prosecute, had control of judges that would not judge righteously. And they, who were they going after? They were going after President Trump. That's who they were going after, and they were going after us. They were going after our family, absolutely. 2023 was just horrible. They absolutely went after us, because more and more evidence was coming out, and they were trying to suppress the evidence. They were trying to deflect from the evidence. They were trying to obstruct the evidence. They were trying to interfere in the case. And so that's what was going on. Very, very simply. Thank you, Anicia, for coming on this, really, really late day. But um, it but we've had all of these victories, haven't we? We've had all these victories, and you can see that now that we're having the victories. And I told you that the floodgates were opening, and they absolutely opened up. It's like you're just the power of this is just incredible, and the mind of so many people. 'Cause you don't have to have 100% of the people, right? You have to have a majority. You have to even a minority that stands on their faith, right? My husband always says that you just have to have a minority that stands on their faith, and he puts that at the end of all of his like emails. A minority that stands on their faith is so powerful. And that's what's happening right now. The truth is coming out. The narratives that the media, that are controlled by these uh, criminal traffickers, these ones that want, you know, grand theft larceny through contracts, through taxes, because that's how they get the contracts, and they make the taxpayer liable to pay for the contracts. And so then they issue the bonds and make everyone pay these taxes, and then they pocket the money for these contracts. And then we don't really even see the benefits, right? Because in El Paso, just to give you an example, you have El Paso Independent School Districts having to shut down. I think they're going to shut down 7 schools. Well, how did it get that way? Well, because the contracts for construction, they were getting very greedy. They kept wanting to build schools. It didn't matter if they didn't need the schools, right? And so how did they try to fake it, right? They tried to fake it to make the El Pasoans think that they needed those schools, by chartering buses, really nice, fancy tour buses, not regular school buses, but really nice, fancy tour buses to drive across the border into Mexico, into Juarez, drive around, pick up children that have a Mexican nationality, right? And then drive them over to the United States, into Texas, into El Paso, and let them go to school at these schools that they built that they didn't have any children for to fill them up. And now, because in 2025, President Trump has now started vetting what's going on at the border, these children have to be educated by their own country, right? By their own country, and so the schools are left empty that they were built unnecessary. But the El Pasoans are liable for paying the taxes on the bonds for these schools that were unnecessarily built. It's contracts, and there's a lot of contracts with the military because the military has such a big budget, $1 trillion. Think about what $1 trillion is. Look that up. Maybe put it in AI. What can $1 trillion buy, right? You will just be amazed at learning what $1 trillion is. And our military um, has been used and abused. Where did this money go? Where did this money go? And all of these donations, like from El Paso Community Foundation to NGOs to take care of children, right? To take care of the children coming across the border. Well, where are these children? Where are they? We have so many hundreds of thousands of missing children. Where are they? And so uh, they give all the appearance of being, having good intentions, but having no good intentions at all, up to absolutely no good. And that's what we're getting across to all the people. And why are we doing that? Because the people, when they're faced with the truth, and that's why they control the media so much, because they want to keep them hypnotized in the matrix, right? They want to keep them hypnotized in the matrix. But when they're faced with the truth, then they will take action. And that's what they're trying to stop. They're trying to stop the whistleblowers. They're trying to stop the action. They're trying to stop making the world a better place. They're trying to stop justice and holding the criminals accountable. That's what they want to do, their criminal network with impunity, with no worries. And that's why Nidal Baem in that video, he was just so suave. He was so confident. And he could even be an imposter FBI agent and not even think twice about it. Whereas try a MAGA person doing that, then look at what they did at J6, right? They didn't give due process. They held people in prison with or jail for without any due process at all. So there's a very, very obvious um picture now into who's operating the auto pen, right? Who is operating the auto pen? Who has the power? And now with President Trump having the power. But, there are indications that even now, even today, there are some that are committing mutiny or they're weaponizing the Department of Justice in ways that are not right, in ways that are absolutely not right. And so that's when, a case like Richard takes 5 years or whatever. And I got a message, everyone can see it, it's public, saying, when Richard went missing, that they had believed and she was ashamed to admit it. She said, that I believe the narrative that was put out by the MPs and everything because the MPs were controlled by the guard mount. The guard mount was CID, and CID was Donna Martin, right? Donna Martin was overseeing that, and she absolutely put out a false narrative about Richard. So, you know, um, people were, wanting to believe the authorities, wanting to believe our very, very um, uh, very funded, very supported government agencies. We always supported our government agencies. We knew that there was a bad apple in the bunch here and there, but I'm here to, but we supported them. And now, with all of this, we're like, ooh, maybe the bad apples got to be the majority in there, you know, um, and they're silencing whistleblowers. Clearly, they silenced Judge Roger Rodriguez, or tried to silence him, with being the whistleblower in Richard Halliday's case. They tried to erase uh, any mention of his whistleblowing report. And we know that because CID Todd Howell told us so. He told us so. So, ma'am, God bless you and your family. I hope you get justice for Richard. Thank you, Sean. Thank you so much. And we are, it's moving forward because the the if the major step, the first step you have to make sure that you get done is the right narrative. And we've been fighting that for almost 5 years now. And I think everyone or enough people now understand that because of the declaration, right, we needed the institutional support. That's step two. You need the institutional support. So you get the narrative out there, and then the institutional support will vet what you're saying, and also all of our filed um, reports with the evidence to it to back us up. So the evidence supports what we're saying. And then the DOD, um, uh, even under Biden, the DOD had to come forth and say the evidence is overwhelming. Richard is deceased. And then the evidence was overwhelming again when Trump came in and said in the line of duty, that he was found, when he was found dead, it was in the line of duty, and admitting, because of the paperwork that we have, that it was on Fort Bliss, that he was murdered on Fort Bliss in the line of duty. That absolutely is what our paperwork is telling us. And so we're not pulling it out of thin air. We're not hoping that it's right. It is right because evidence confirms it. Evidence confirms it. And the DOD now has declared Richard killed or murdered on Fort Bliss in the line of duty. That's just the way it is. And that confirms that Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe lied to us, lied to Fort Bliss, lied to El Paso, lied to Congress, lied to, I mean, they lied. And why did they lie? Because they were facilitating, they were engaged in a mutiny, against President Trump in order to, this was 2020, this was an election year, and they wanted him out. They wanted him out because he was investigating them, he was auditing them. And let me tell you, from our Eustis VTC that we had, where I asked them to their face with the 15-6 results that were such a joke. You could tell that they didn't do their job. And I asked, look, the whole purpose of the 15-6 was to investigate if there was extortion. Well, if there was extortion within the unit, that means you have to go and look at bank accounts. And I said, did you look at the bank accounts? Did you subpoena bank accounts and investigate the bank accounts? You should have seen their faces, especially Sean Bernabe. His face was just like horror. And we know now why, because he is absolutely connected to El Paso in so many ways. He's so connected way before he even took command of Fort Bliss. He's connected to El Paso and to the ongoings on in El Paso. And El Paso is because it's on the border, because it has this amazing military base with White Sands Missile Range. You know, I was born on the range. I was born on White Sands Missile Range. Um, it's just amazing, and I say that often because it's like God had a purpose all along, um, to clean up that area, to absolutely clean up El Paso, to take it back for its beauty that it is, its goodness, its culture that has been destroyed by this criminal network of greed, of absolute greed, like Joe Open Checkbook Spencer, who's so greedy, with Sam, the most corrupt judge in El Paso history, Madrano. And then you have the problems with the Briones family that shows this whole criminal network that Julio Cordero, as the lead FBI, stellar FBI lead investigator of Operation Poison Ponds, absolutely shows you now that there was a real criminal network that was at high levels. Luther Jones, the Judge Briones, and many more, and many more. This was not. This is not something new that I'm pulling out of the thin air. This is something that, even after they were caught, even after they were indicted, even after they went to prison, um, the money is so connected and the cartel is so connected to El Paso and so thick that they continued. And that's what we're saying, that they continued. And when Richard went there, when Richard went there as the stellar soldier that he is, He was absolutely distinguished honor graduate, right? Um, that for his cycle in basic training, that he reported uh, reported the criminal networks. He didn't want that for El Paso. I was so excited he was going to El Paso. I had no idea that the level of criminality had gotten so dangerous. And it's so dangerous now that, just across the border in Juarez, just in the month of May, they had the cartel styled executions, 80 of them. 80. That's what's going on across the border, because they're fighting for their life against, I would say, the infiltration of the CCP. The CCP that has um, um, captured in its web the the Mexican cartels, the Mexican cartels with the trafficking, with the trafficking money and everything. And I don't know if the Mexican cartels absolutely know all the implications of their evil criminal wheels and deals that they made with the CCP. But it's not something I'm making up. It's all being reported. I'm just re-reporting what's out there in the news. And Mexico has lost its sovereignty. It's fighting for its sovereignty back, and it needs to, and it's getting very volatile, and we don't want that in the United States. We want our peace. We don't want 80 execution style, cartel style executions in one month, right? I mean, can you imagine just in one state of Chihuahua? So yeah, we don't want that. And so we have to take the measures to protect our sovereignty. As and why? What's at stake? The loss of our Constitution, right? The loss of the U.S. Constitution. And something that people should also understand is that I think we're like the oldest country in the world right now, the United States, um, as far as keeping our Constitution for the longest, right? With our Bill of Rights, to have the freedom of religion. And that's, I wanted to talk about that last night. I don't know if I did, but this freedom of religion, the freedom of religion to, it can be used and abused, right? Can absolutely be used and abused. If you are a religious, like right now, the Mormon Church, or I wouldn't say the Mormon leadership community, whatever, a big hunk of it, they're in real trouble. They're being, they're in real trouble. Let's just say that they're being caught, and to be tax free, to have under the guise of freedom of religion, but to be um, uh, dealing in criminal activity. And I'm telling you, in Richard's case, uh, a a very common denominator is the Mormon community, and it goes right into Chihuahua. And so, these NGOs that say that they are, religious entities, but they're up to no good, and they're acting against the national security, the very constitution that gives them the freedom of religion. Because I'm hoping they take the whole income tax away, because I think it's such a terrible thing that some people can be tax free and other people can't. Like, some people are special, or you have this, they say, the separation in church and state, and I think that that has been abused like everything else. It's been abused. Um, so we'll see what happens, but this is what I'm reading in the news, that they can get away with things because of their twisting and turning of, if they're a criminal entity, if you have if you say I'm a religious group and I'm all for um, grand theft, larceny, and child trafficking, um, you know, I don't think that that's what our framers thought was freedom of. Well, I know 100% it wasn't what they had in mind, because they always focused that the freedom of religion was under God and under the Ten Commandments. Absolutely. The Ten Commandments, Moses is everywhere, all over the United States, because that's really the basis, the golden rule, and um, and we have, of course, um, the rule of law, and the rule of law that um, we base our law system on is either from King of England. Oh, it'll come to me, or Justinian, the Justinian Codex, um, Alfred the Great Codex, or the Justinian Codex, which is all biblical law. It's all biblical law that has been put into a codex for property, for family law, for privacy laws, for restitution, for, and of course, the basis of that is the Ten Commandments. And so, you really have to think about what's going on here. This is a spiritual war. Um, People that think it's okay to do criminal trafficking are infiltrating and taking over and weaponizing our system so that they can defend the criminal traffickers, um, and the theft. People that think it's okay to steal, to uh, bring 14-year-old girls into the barracks and get away with it. And that's why we don't have the accountability that we want right now, right? A lot of people are very frustrated. They want more accountability. They want to see more accountability. Well, because this is a spiritual war. There's, people that think it's okay to do these things, and so they've been put in place as judges, or as congressmen, as congresswomen, as senators, and they're just like, oh yeah, we're really into all of this theft and criminal trafficking and everything, and so we're just protecting it. I'm just putting that out there because this is absolutely a time for everyone to pay attention, um, because we have a lot to lose here if we're not paying attention. And that is the Constitution that gives us our right to freedom of religion under God, under the law of the land, um, and our family law and our criminal law. Just think of the right to vote. When I think of the El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court denying, disenfranchising the El Pasoans of their right to vote for their judges, which is given to them by the Texas Constitution, they've already violated. You see, they think it's okay to disenfranchise the El Pasoans of their right to vote. They've had that um, right for to vote for those judges on that court since 2015, and not one election has taken place for those judges. I don't think not one election has taken place. That is a huge violation. So we have a lot to lose, because wouldn't it be wonderful if those judges had to answer to the people, had to answer to the that were vetted by the people, you know, and that would be all hashed out. You would have a lot more righteousness coming from the bench. You'd have a lot more um, a lot more accountability coming from the bench, and that would give you everyone a skip in the walk, a skip in their walk. Just think about how happy. See, this is the thing we're up against. Um, when you have justice, you have peace, you have happiness. When you have this criminal network constantly targeting whistleblowers, constantly targeting any opposition to what they want to do, what they're doing, life is miserable. Then you have 80 executions in 1 month. It is just all out and out war, and that's why um, I wanted to talk about how this is a spiritual war. So I hope that makes sense, because it's like at the very beginning, when they were smearing Richard, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Who cares? Who cares if you like Richard or not? He's a missing soldier, and you're supposed to find them. That's your obligation. And they were just absolutely insane. The way they were not following their SOPs, they weren't following their regulations, they weren't following their oaths, their duty, the esprit de corps, their Medal of Honor ethos, their creeds. They weren't following any of that. And so it was very, very obvious that they were serving foreign and domestic enemies, and not the Constitution, uh, not the old glory, not the old glory, you know. Um, and so it's very evidence confirms they have betrayed us. These leaders, like Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, and many more. But Sean Bernabe, the commander of Fort Bliss, absolutely betrayed us. The seal on the door of the arms room shows that. And not that they just betrayed us, meaning the Halliday family and Richard, but the soldiers. I mean, he's not, just some guy walking down the street. He is the commander of Fort Bliss. It's unbelievable power. He has a PAO. Remember the PAO? Allie Payne Scott. She has lots of names. Allie Payne. Um, you know, uh, and how it was promised to us, every month they would mention Richard until he was found, and that is so they give all this pretense, but they have no intention of ever following through. They have bad intentions. And he kept it from us. He kept Nidal Baem's um, identity from us, and who he was. So the bottom line is they absolutely uh, have a different ideology, and it's not Americana. It's not Americana, and because they are protecting the the cartels on and their activity on base, because I'm talking about the commander of Fort Bliss, Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, at the time, because he was protecting the criminal trafficking on the base, because he was protecting the cartel activity on the base, because he was protecting and facilitating, right? Facilitating the breaking of security on base, and not following the SOPs, facilitating that, allowing that all to happen. Evidence confirms that he was aiding and abetting foreign and domestic enemies, that include the cartel who are tied, and he knows it, and he knows it. He knows it through Kayla Cardona, the CCP. And I think that invoices, shipping invoices, and everything would absolutely declare that, because we just had the case where uh, a Chinese um, violator of a student visa was shipping containers full of military gear, full of military equipment to North Korea, and he was arrested. To North Korea um, out of California, but the equipment, the military uniforms and gear and everything came from Texas. Came from Texas. And anyone that knows about North Korea knows that it is totally connected. You can when you say North Korea, you can say the CCP. So and it's just they're allowing those things to happen, and their connection with Korea, their connection with because ADA is in Korea big time, big time. I know all about that, and of course with Hawaii. So the treason is there and the mutiny is there because of the Walmart mass shooting and the false narratives, and they allowed those false narratives, knowing the Mayellas, knowing Patrick Crucius and the Mayellas, knowing their involvement in the DA's office, in the FBI's, in the Walmart cybersecurity, in the healthcare field, because Clem Coward's wife was a liaison for the VA and healthcare for William Beaumont and healthcare for Beto O'Rourke. So they know each other. You don't think Beto O'Rourke knows Mayellas? You don't think that Clem Coward and his wife knows the Mayellas, especially with Lorraine Mayella being in healthcare? Um, I think they know each other. They're in that community. They're in that same community. Um, Let me read. Don Bongino and Patel know about this. Yes, they do. And if there was a rogue agent keeping evidence from being brought to light, the director and deputy director should be informed. Absolutely. And they know. And matter of fact, I went through some old notes about um FBI agents that were there at some of our meetings and got, that we wrote down their names, and um uh so they absolutely know what's going on in this case. Um but with all this Epstein stuff, all the P Diddy, all of the contracts, all of the death threats, look at President Trump is still getting death threats. Okay. He is still getting, if they're going to organize to send us death threat, I mean, we're still being harassed. So if they're going to harass us, if they're going to send death threats to us, and we're, compared to President Trump, I mean, he is the chief magistrate. He is the chief law enforcer. He's the commander in chief. He's the president of the United States. He has the pen, not an auto pen. He has a pen. He has a pen that he signs his name. He has EOs. They don't like him because he wants law and order. Law and order. And the actions so far, can you believe it? If he didn't have the mutiny that he has, and he still has a mutiny, okay? Let's not be fooled. It's very, very clear. You think he's just going to come in and they're going to give up after everything that they've done to him? Whether you like him or not, he absolutely had everything done to him. And, they're just going to give up and just go their way when they have billions of dollars at stake in contracts and criminal trafficking alone is like $96 billion. It's just huge amounts of money. They're going to fight for it. and it's mutiny because he is a commander in chief. So, you know, and you have all of these generals with these ties to these companies that get these military contracts. It's been going on for a long time. It's nothing new. It's nothing new. Remember Shashalavili or whatever when he brought the beret in and everybody was like, "Why are you bringing the beret?" It was such a pretty contract for him, right? It was such a pretty contract for him. And the berets were a disaster. And I like berets, but not for everybody. I mean, you can't even keep the rain out of your eye. You can't keep the sun out of your eye. They were just so impractical. You have to have two hands to put them on. You have to have a mirror because but a regular cap, you don't have to. One hand you can put it on. You don't need a mirror. Keeps sun out of your eye. Keeps the rain out of your eye. You can have the ear flaps, tucked in, and then you can have the winter model. I mean, berets were just a nice. It's always about these contracts. So, and when you're a family with a combined 80 years of service, probably more than that, you have some of that history behind you, that knowledge, especially with all the deployments, and then even with the healthcare, with Rob being a physician assistant, and then being at Walter Reed, and being a perfusionist, and um, y- yeah, we all know about the contracts. We all know about the healthcare that absolutely uh, you know needs to be reformed. Absolutely. So we need to keep the good stuff, and the fraud, waste, and abuse needs to be addressed. So this is a time to really be bothered, pay attention. You can't say, "Oh, I couldn't be bothered." No, it is a time to pay attention, and because there's so much at stake here. Just look at what's going on in South Korea. They're fighting for their sovereignty. Mexico's fighting for their sovereignty. We were asleep at the wheel. Literally, we had a president asleep, and now President Trump is in, and well, you have to admit this, he's fighting every day for the sovereignty of the United States, and we're very grateful for that, because we are getting um, Richard's case is so entwined with that purpose, that um, we did get 4 days after President Trump took office, in the line of duty designation. That's huge. So thank you so much, everybody. Please share, share, share. This is so important. And we need to get these traitors out of our uniforms, out of our stars, out of command. They have to be out of command. They have to be stripped of everything, and including their clearances, their secret clearances, and access to all of these soldiers' information and everything like that, and the country's information. They need to absolutely be stripped from all of that, because they are enemies. They are working for enemies. And so, we need Americana. We need America. Matter of fact, I wanted to tell you, I went walking around the block. I do just about every day. I go walking around the block. Today I counted 11 American flags. 11 American flags flying on homes in my neighborhood. Um, that is really a difference from a few months back. People are absolutely saying, yes, we have to fight for our country. And the putting out the American flag is absolutely a symbol for that. So 11 of them I counted. I was so happy. So thank you, everyone. God bless you. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing. And thank you, Danielle, for coming on and your prayers and your love. And thank you, Sean, for your comments. And Anicia, too, for your